Podcast.
Dedicated to the underdog, cause I see you. Working on your craft, getting strong, cause I see you. Ready to set it off and on, cause I see you. Correcting all that is wrong, cause I see you.
I'd like to welcome the audience to the 500 and Growing podcast. My name is Jesus Azteca 500 Sanchez. Today we have Gwen La Roka, which is an incredible person that does comedy that's like super inspiring as far as her life, and also an incredibly funny person. And I'm talking about funny like when you just chilling with her, she's making you bust out laughing and just like makes you feel good, you know.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I met Gwen when there was a group called Venus, and in the past episode, Jessica Juarez was kind of heading that initiative. Gwen was one of the performers that was, I don't know if she was starting. Were you starting the comedy?
I think at that point, I was still doing a lot of hosting, like for non-for-profits and hitting open mics, doing like still my emceeing and my poetry.
Okay.
And so I was already getting comfortable on the mic doing those things.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I slid in. The Venus Collective was through, you know, obviously our common interest in the women's movement and supporting one another.
Yeah, for sure.
They just saw the opportunity, like, hey, well, you're already rocking with us. You already like to get on the mic. You want to host the event / stage manage and like help find other artists and run the stage and put, you know, the performance part of it together. So it actually worked out. Yeah.
No, yeah. So that's how I met Gwen. And I've seen Gwen grow. You know, she has done comedy. Mikey O, which is a producer of comedy shows, had a talent competition or a competition of some sort.
It was a stand-up comedy competition years ago.
A stand-up comedy competition. And we got the reigning champ right here, yo. Like, she won the championship. And so it was amazing to see her get to a point where it was just like you saw it become like a reality, you know? Like, you saw the dream kind of flourish, you know? And so Gwen La Roka has been like super, super inspirational. And so everybody, please give a big round of applause to Gwen La Roka.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right, man. So thank you for coming to the 500 and Growing podcast. Yeah. So let's just get into it. Like, how did you grow up and what was it like, and where were you in Chicago, and how did it smell, and
right?
like what was it like to?
It smelled like poverty. No, I'm just kidding. No, man. I can't even complain about my childhood. I guess I could say I could, right? Because we all have the traumas. We all have our own stories that might not be so pleasant. But when I think about my childhood overall, I just feel blessed. I feel grateful, because even the things that were not the best experience for me growing up, it turned out to be, because it made me who I am. So, man, sure. I think about my childhood. We grew up in, I guess that's the Lakeview area, by like Roscoe and School Street, or like School Street and Paulina. Okay. So to give like a major intersection, it's like Belmont and Lincoln Avenue. Okay. Or, you know, Roscoe and Lincoln.
Yeah. That's a beautiful area. You right by the beach?
I didn't know. I was a kid, so I was just like, I live here, you know, in this apartment on the second floor. And I don't know. I know you saw it. Thank you for coming. Thank you and Casa for coming out. Yeah. To my show, my one-woman show, Mi Casa es Tu Casa.
Yeah, it was incredible, yo.
It was thank you. It was such an awesome experience being able to bring my life, bring my living room to others, and And that's basically, man, I break down a lot of the childhood in there, if you remember.
No, and it was like your living room for real. Like you had the heavy ass wood TV in there. You know what I'm saying?
The
Like
TV on top of the TV, on top of the TV, on top of the dresser.
Yeah, that's how we did it.
I love building that set, because you got to make the audience feel like they're in the living room with you. You know, I wanted to take people on that ride through my living room, but also present the show in a way that people see themselves in their living room.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I grew up in that Lakeview area. When my mom had me, we were living on that second floor apartment on School Street.
Yeah.
And then at about right before I graduated 8th grade, we, my father and my mom were actually able to finally purchase our first house.
Okay.
So that was dope. And then so at about 14 or so, my last year, I was taking a school bus. I was a school bus kid the last year. We ended up moving to Fully in Cicero. And that's where I was like, oh, shit, there's other brown folks over here. That's what's up. Like, I didn't really actually notice that growing up. I did, but I didn't.
Yeah. Especially because where you were growing up in the apartment in, what's that neighborhood called?
Which first apartment, Lakeview.
Lakeview is like super diverse, isn't it? Like...
That's what I'm saying. I don't really recall back then.
Yeah.
I don't even think I was paying that much attention, because one of my homegirls down the block, if you hear this, find me. I've been trying to find her forever.
Yeah.
One of my homegirls who lived around the block, her name was Estelle, or it probably is still Estelle.
Yeah. Hopefully, right?
Yeah. She was cool peeps. That was like one of my only black friends on the block.
Yeah.
You know, in school was a different story. You know, you had all your friends, all kinds of different backgrounds and from different places. But in my neighborhood, I didn't really have. I had my next door neighbor was a white dude, Brian. What's up, Brian? Wherever you're at. And then down the block, I had Estelle. But other than them two, I didn't really notice that there wasn't many people of color in our area, or any, BIPOC folks in our area, until we moved to Fullerton and Cicero. And then I was like, oh, snap. That's where my peoples are at. Like, we're hanging out, waving the bandera on Fully and Cicero for Mexican Independence Day. Oh, I didn't know y'all were out here.
Yeah.
So then we moved to Fully and Cicero, and then we were there pretty much till my parents decided this is it. Y'all are old enough. We're done. We're retiring. They dipped out to Mexico.
Okay.
And then I've been bouncing from place to place since then.
Okay. What are some of the things that you saw growing up that you wanted to change in yourself as an adult?
I think it's very interesting that we go through our lives being like, oh, well, I guess this is just who I am. Oh, shitty habit. Yeah. And now there's a lot of dots being connected that I'm like, oh, maybe it wasn't me being, just
hyper.
Hyper, or maybe it wasn't me now being forgetful just because I wasn't paying attention. Maybe it's hard for me to retain certain bits of information for whatever reason. Maybe it's, not that I wasn't paying attention. It's just I drift sometimes and don't realize what did you say?
Yeah.
It's not that I'm I have lack of focus, or, but through our entire lives, because it starts when you're a kid. You're like, sit still. I mean, dude, you remember in grammar school, the report cards?
Yeah.
And my check marks were always filled. Yeah. Do you remember the little section with the check marks?
No, what were they?
It was like, talks too much in class.
Oh, okay.
That shit every quarter had a fat check mark.
I was about to ask you about that. Okay.
Like, can't stay still at her desk, check mark. Yeah. Doesn't respect property of others, because I'd be like throwing people's pencils on, like, give me your shit, like, just you being a kid.
Yeah.
But my check marks on those report cards for the grammar school were always like hyper, talks too much, disrupts the classroom, class clown. Like, it was always like check mark. And now I'm like, hey, maybe
What did that do to you as a little kid, though? Like, because...
Got my ass? No, I'm just kidding.
I know, yeah,
no,
for sure. I did.
No, my mom was like, te dije que ya no estuvieras hablando en la clase. I'm like, I swear to God, Mommy, I'm not talking. No, they didn't want my ass. But it didn't do anything, to be completely honest with you. I was just like, damn. Like, fucking Miss Tui, why you got to put me out like that?
Yeah.
Why you got to put me out? I didn't think of it as anything bad. Thankfully, that didn't give me a complex or any kind of insecurity, like, something's wrong with me. But now that I'm older and I look back and I'm like, man, there's a lot of shit that I thought it was just me.
Yeah.
And now I'm realizing maybe it's not. Maybe there's more to it. Maybe these are trauma responses. Maybe that's neurodivergency. Maybe it's this. Maybe, and maybe some of it is me. I mean, we can't, we can't forget accountability altogether and have, reasons for it. But it's interesting if you take the time to peel shit back and peel all the layers back and really be like, but why did I do it? You might find out it's not just you. Yeah. There might be some other factors going on here. And if you don't know it, how are you going to tell people? And people are just walking around with this idea of you or this narrative of you that isn't quite accurate.
But yeah, so I was that kid that would be like, man, Jesus is super intelligent, but he just doesn't do his homework. Can you please have him do his homework? So my mom, before the parent-teacher conference, would be like in the car. No, like, Jesus, tell me the truth right now. Tell me the truth. Whether it be good or bad, tell me the truth, because you're not going to go in there and embarrass me, because I'm going to stick up for you. And then the teacher's going to show me that you've been lying to me. And if they show me that you've been lying to me, you're going to get it when we get home. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So she was just like, just be honest with me. Like, have you been doing your homework? Have you been doing? Nah. And then we would go to that parent-teacher conference. Jesus is super smart. If he would only put his energy that he's doing drawing into his artwork. Into his schoolwork. Yeah. And I'd just be like, And so I didn't become like a good student until college, man. Like, college was really the place where I was just like, I'm gonna really try to do this.
Man, that was what I thought after I graduated high school. I was like, man, I should have done all my assignments, man. Like, because it's just dumb shit. I guess for me personally, I was like, I know what that is. Like, I would look at the homework and I'm like, man, I gotta do that. With my eyes closed. Like, I don't, and I'm like, well, fuck. It made it easy for me to be like, homework, I'll do it some other time. And when I was graduating high school and I look back at everybody with their badass GPA scores and their, and I'm like, I should have done all my assignments. I was just being lazy. I should have done all my assignments. I know I would have got A's on them. Yeah. But because I knew that I knew the stuff, I was like, who cares? But I could have done way better with my grades.
Yeah, the wild part is that it's just a game. I mean, just grades and going to school in general is a game. It's just like, who cares you don't like that teacher? Just figure out a way to get that A.
Right.
And just bounce up out of that class and never deal with that teacher ever in your life again. But, as a young kid, you just, man, that teacher don't like me.
That was my number one. Yeah, my brothers would mock me too. My older brother would be like, let me guess, the teacher doesn't like me. He would always say that. I'm like, how did you know? She doesn't. She doesn't.
Well, speaking of your brother, like, what was your family structure like? You say your mom and your dad were together. They bought a house. Do you have older brothers?
Yeah.
Where are you at? Like, in the brothers?
In the hierarchy, in the sibling hierarchy. I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. No, my parents had 3 of us, and I have 2 older brothers, Caesar and Will. And then me, I'm the youngest and the only girl.
Oh, you're the baby.
Yeah, so that's why I'm all freaking hardcore. I had to watch my back.
Oh yeah, especially with 2 brothers, man.
They
Ooh,
were
you
always
probably know how to fight and everything.
No, like, what's funny is we would roast on each other all the time. Well, mostly they would roast on me.
Oh, okay.
But now it's like who's the master? I'm the master. But thanks to them in a way, because I had to be sharp, man. I remember going through some old VHS tapes. Young people tuning in, Google that, okay? VHS. Google that shit. And I was going through some old family videos, and I saw a video because I was the youngest of the house. So for me, my entertainment was walking around the house with my mom's big ass video camera.
The ones that you had to be like this?
The big ass, NBC 5 channel,
The what do you call it? The bazooka?
Yeah, straight up looking like armies. Yeah. So I would walk around with that big ass camera, and I would videotape. Like, I would go from videotaping squirrels outside. Like, if my brothers weren't trying to play with me or they were gone, I would go to my brother's bedroom and I would open his window and I would literally like Discovery Channel that shit. Like, I would just be narrating animals and like listening to, like recording squirrels and whatever and narrating like, oh, look at this squirrel over there. Like I watched a lot of nature shit with my dad growing up too. So I was doing a lot of like Marty Stauffer shit,
Nice.
like, oh, look at that, squirrel, make it way right. And like,
Yeah.
and my brothers would make
Holding
so much
that
noise.
nut really high.
Really close.
He's going up to the tallest tree branch.
And my brother would walk in and be like, what the hell are you recording squirrels for? You're a dork.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you don't play with me. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
This was them constantly, like, always teasing me or getting me to cry, singing shit that
Yeah.
do you have siblings?
I don't, man. I'm an only child, so I'm like the golden child.
You didn't get the treatment.
No,
man.
but the whole thing is that it's a whole different zone though, because I didn't get that. So like, all right, I'll give you an example of being an only child that sucks. I'm very particular about my shit.
I got all the attention. How terrible.
Nah, man, that is terrible.
That can't be though.
Man,
I can see all the focus is on you.
Fuck, man. I had to shed all that away. That egotism, that like all like everything surrounds me level of thinking. Like I had to let that shit go.
I didn't even think of that. That's right, because you could adapt that growing up, and then you can take that into your adulthood. Like where I go, I own the space. Cater to me. You're already a person. Yeah, you're already a man, and you already naturally, most men, not all, right. You have this natural born like air like to you that like when you guys enter a space, it's like I belong here, But
I'm very particular. I know where I left my things. If they get moved, my kids, man. I was about to go run. Because I'm running every other day because I'm about to fight. And so I'm already cranky because I'm not eating. Mm-hmm. And so my daughter took my AirPods.
Se jodió la cosa.
Man, I was like,
yo, my AirPods.
Yo. And I took her chips and she was just like, hold up. And this is my little daughter, like the three-year-old. Yeah. She was like, yo. It's right here. And I was just like, can I get my chips back? And I gave her chips back. But man, I was just like, and then I was driving and I was like, damn, why was I so upset, yo?
That's
like
so
I could have ran without listening to music, although it would have sucked.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it was just like, man, maybe I need to calm down.
That's hangry though. You were just a little hangry there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's a lot of self-reflecting. But it's interesting you brought that specific example up because that's another way that my brothers would tease me.
Ooh, taking your stuff?
Moving it on purpose, but not even like I'm gonna move it when you're not here so that you can come looking for it and go crazy. No, like they would walk in. I wish I could get up and show you how they would do it. They would. So do you remember Muscle Men?
Yeah.
The little dudes, the little, like, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
they were about the size of the army soldiers. Remember the little green army soldier guys?
And they were like
they were
wrestlers,
about the same size, but they were like skin toned, and they were all like different crazy looking wrestlers. Some guys had like bolts for arms, and one had like a. I loved Little Muscle Man, and I had Little Muscle Man lined up, and all my little juguetes and my shit was always like. Again, maybe I don't know. I haven't gotten the full on testing and right, but I'm starting to read about neurodivergency and ADHD and how it shows up in so many different forms. Maybe it was this. My shit was always like lined and like it had to be nice and neat. And my brothers knew that my shit was always set nice. Ooh. So they would walk into my room and I already knew what he was doing because he would give me that like, when you kind of walk into a room and you're just kind of like lingering, like you're looking around, like, what am I going to fuck with? Yeah. That's what he would do. Caesar would walk in and he would start looking at my Little Muscle Man and I'd be like, don't do it, man. Stop playing. And he'd be like, what? I'm not doing anything. And I'm like, stop, man. Stop messing around, man. Come on. He'd be like, what? And then he'd start flicking.
Ooh.
Yeah, sorry. He would start
No. Yeah, I know what he's doing.
Flicking, like knocking my Little Muscle Man over. And then as soon as I would go like to straighten them up, he'd move to the other end and start like,
and this is the older one or the middle one?
My older one. And I'd be like, stop it. Like, so one time, and I won't continue to bore you with this. I got these for days. One time they both went in, and they had this little plan. My parents had gone out, and we're on a budget. We didn't have enough bedrooms for all of us in this apartment on School Street. And so my bed, like a family who's making it happen, my bed was in my parents' bedroom. So when you walked into my parents' bedroom, it was like, boom, my bed was there. And then to the right was my parents' bed. Yeah. So my parents were like, we're going to go out tonight, watch your sister. You guys are going to stay home, whatever. So my parents went out, and it was time to go to bed. And I was a little scary berry. I didn't want to go to sleep by myself with the lights on, with the lights off. Yeah. And so I was like, come on, I don't want to go to bed. They're like, you got to go to bed. It's bedtime. So my headboard had all my little muscle men and my stuffed animals and all my little, my things. And they're like, fine, we'll lay down in mom and dad's bed just to wait for you to go to sleep. And then we're going to go back to the sala, to the living room and hang out. And I'm like, okay. So we were all like laying down there. We all turned the lights off, whatever. And I'm freaking laying down there. And all of a sudden I feel like a little breeze, like over my face. And I open my eyes and I'm like, what the hell? And there's like a teddy bear in my chest. And I was like, what? What the hell? I'm like, whatever. I put the little teddy bear back. And now I'm laying there with my eyes like wide open, right? And it's completely dark. And supposedly my brothers are sleeping. We're going to bed. Yeah. But I'm laying there, staring at the ceiling with my eyes open, and I see another teddy bear fly, not fall. It freaking leaped from above my head, from my headboard to like by my feet. Okay. And I flipped out, dude. I was like, what? My teddy bear just jumped. My teddy bear just jumped. And my brother's like, what are you talking about? Go to bed. Stop crying. What are you doing? Go. And so they convinced me. It was like 5 minutes of me crying that my teddy bears were flying. Yeah. And they were both like, stop, crying. You're just, whatever. Go to bed. So I go to bed, and then another one did it. And I was like, I swear to God, my teddy bears are jumping. So I went to sleep terrified. Yeah. And the next morning, do you know what woke me up? A tickle on my face. Like something was tickling my face. And I was like, what the hell is this? And I go to move it. I'm like, what is tickling me? And it's a freaking hilito. It's a little string, a little piece of thread. And I'm like this. And I pull it up, and it's tied to the legs of all the stupid teddy bears that were flying off my headboard. And I was like, what is it? My brother started cracking up. They were they started mocking me like, oh, who am I, Will? Who am I? My teddy bears are flying. My teddy bears are flying. Dude, they would not. So, I mean, I had to grow up with that shit. You know,
so you had to defend yourself.
I had to always be, but now I'm like, say something now.
What's the,
I'm going to talk about you. I'm going to talk about you in my set. I'm going to talk about you.
No, but, what's the age difference in your brothers?
My oldest brother, he is, how old am I? He's about 8 years older than me.
So how old were you when he was messing with you like that? It's just like, it's always been that way.
Now I know what they're doing when they do it. And it still wants to bother me, but I have to pretend like it's not, even though inside I want to go, shut the hell up already.
Like that's what it's like being a teacher, yo.
Dude, I can't imagine. Respects to you, because you can't say shut the hell up already.
I don't do that anymore.
Yo, we can't. So it's a very genuine love, very sincere. I don't know that we grew up having, as close as we are. And I don't know, I'm sure you got the vibe for like our family dynamics from seeing my show. We're very tight knit, but the conversations were lacking. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like the actual conversations, we didn't have that. We grew up, I would say typical, but I don't even know that I have the right to say that, because I don't know what a typical household is now.
There is no typical.
Right. It just depends on the family's dynamics.
Man, when I have cousins and nieces and nephews that have kids, like I was like, yo, I got to be ready to have a kid. It's like, we need to have this, we need to have this, we need to have this, and none of that matters. And nobody has instruction manuals, and nobody knows what we're doing. Like, nobody knows what we're doing with our kids. We're just trying to fix the things that we saw that were broken. Right. But it's just like, so now you have a good relationship with your brothers?
We've always had.
I mean, but do you have conversations now?
Now, and I feel like I had to be the one to kind of to start that, because I grew up very much, again, very close, dope, loving, sincere family, but it was very much obvious that like where the lines were drawn. We were siblings. Those were our parents. We didn't have that type of relationship that a lot of families have now, where it's like, my mom's my best friend. Yeah. I didn't talk to my mom about regular stuff unless it was like mom-daughter stuff. And even some mom-daughter stuff. I didn't have a conversation about menstruation with my mom.
Yeah.
My friends told me what it was.
Yep.
My friends told me what to do. The most my mom was like, oh, tampones son for non-virgins. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
I get you,
that's as far as that got. And I was
yeah.
like, well, I guess I won't tell you I'm using that because you're gonna think I'm not no more, and I was,
That's
and I
the
am.
religious stuff,
right? But that's probably as far as those things. But like, it wasn't like, we're gonna have a conversation about who I like and this and that, or how do I look, or
How
it
do
was
I
very
feel?
much, it was very much, you're the kid, I'm the adult. It was very much that
Just do
kind
what
of
I'm saying.
do what I'm saying. We didn't ask. We didn't say por qué. We couldn't say like no. We were just like, oh, mom said to do this or dad said to. I mean, obviously we were kids, so we weren't like super obedient. I'm not saying we did everything, but you know what I mean. Like that was that kind of relationship. So as I got older, I wanted more. I was like, hey, this is great, but this is a different phase in my life, and I don't want to just talk to you like my older brothers. I want to be able to tell you I do this and that and not hide it from you because I look at you like a second dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I had to be like, hey, could we hang out? Like, go out? Because I was old enough at that point. I wasn't asking them to hang out with me at 17, 18. They were off doing their own thing. I was with my own friends. It wasn't until I was like mid-20s that I, mid-20s to getting closer to 30s, that I was starting to be like, well, can I hang with my brothers as friends? Not just because it's my niece or my nephew's birthday or my birthday or their,
like a
that's how we
superficial,
got-
like not a superficial relationship, like having a real relationship where I know this person.
Yes, I want to like, can I talk to you about your personal shit? Like, let's talk, you know, because up till that point, it was very much brother, sister.
Yeah.
Like I don't tell them shit. They don't tell me their personal shit. And I was like,
for
well,
sure.
that's great and everything, but this is like a new chapter in our lives.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a closer relationship with y'all. And so I started that with one of my brothers. And then I was like, oh, this is great. I got this with you. But like, I want it with Caesar too. He's the oldest. He's the one we view as like another father figure. So it was a little bit harder for me to broach that and kind of break that down.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at now. And I feel like it's our responsibility to do that with our parents too. Like, I had some dope conversations with my dad. My dad was always like, both of my parents are extremely intelligent. But my dad is like the intellect. Like, my dad is where I get my brain cells in that aspect when it comes to like, let's talk about life. Like, we would
curiosity.
my dad and I would get into some crazy conversations that I can't get through with my mom, and not because she can't hang. It's just, it's different. There's different things that interest her.
Yeah.
I might lose her interest if I start talking to her about past lives and, reincarnations or the possibility of this or, like that. I might have her for a bit, but then after a while I was like, all right, that's your thing. My dad and I would go in on these crazy conversations. I remember growing up, dude, and wondering things that I didn't know what I was wondering until now.
Yeah.
So like, I think back, and one of the most prevalent questions I had as a kid was, who am I? But it wasn't like a simple question like a who am I? My who am I to myself as a kid was like I know this is how I would narrate it in my mind.
sure.
And I was like 4-ish probably. I was very, very little remembering this, being like, well, I know I'm Wendy. Like, it's my born name, Wendy. I know what my voice sounds like. I know what my thoughts sound like when I'm talking to myself in my head. That has a voice.
Yeah.
And I was like, but where was I before? And I was like, well, where was I like before I was born?
Yeah.
Where were those thoughts? Where was this voice?
Yeah.
I was now that I'm old enough to understand what the hell I was trying to understand then, even as a kid, I was questioning like where our consciousness came from, like where we really came from.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, who am I on this earth? I was like, it was almost like I already knew this was just a vessel before I was explained that anything. Like I wasn't having life conversations with anybody at that age. These were just my thoughts. I was like, where was I before? And if I talked and if I thought something, who heard it? If I wasn't born, where did those thoughts go? Where is this question that I'm asking right now? Where was my voice? Where was my consciousness is basically what I was trying to figure out as a kid.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of conversations that as I got older, I would have with my dad.
And so you mentioned your dad, and I know that watching the show that him passing away really affected you. Like, what was your relationship like with your dad, and like what did he provide for you? And like,
man, that's a loaded question. Like, we could be here all day with those questions, right? Because he provided a lot that I'm still even discovering now.
Yeah.
You know, like you were talking about, we talked about earlier about like things we wanted to change and stuff. There are things, I think one of the easiest things for us to see when we're kids is stuff that we don't like. Even as humans, I think throughout life, it's so much easier for somebody to find the negative in something.
There's
than
a
it
spot
is.
on that.
Right. Oh, here's what you missed.
Yeah.
Oh, you forgot. It's always like, it's very easy for the brain to go to that glass half empty mentality.
Yeah.
If you don't catch it. And I think as a kid, it's even easier because you're like, oh, I'm not going to do that when I'm older, which is, there's a sense of, you know, there's a good thing in that, you know, that you're already like taking note of things you don't want to repeat when you're older.
For sure.
You just don't want to stay there, right? You don't want to just look at all the negative. But I think as growing up, that was one of the things that I would keep in mind, that I would see things in dynamics that I'd be like, man, I hope I don't grow up with that habit. I don't want to make people feel like that, or I don't want to do that, or, you know, like you were saying, I don't want to, you know what I mean? Like there's different things, like I'm never going to, you know, do that.
Yeah.
And so there were, like with anybody, right? I have them with, you know, there were things that I saw in my dad that I was like, man, I hope I don't like, I don't want to have, you know, that, or I don't want to. It was easy for me to be like, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try not to have a short temper or whatever the thing was, you know. But now that I'm older, and now that he's gone, and I think back about so many things that I thought I was so different from him.
Yeah,
I really did. I was like, oh, we're totally. And now that he's gone, I'm like, I'm starting to feel like I'm more like him than I even am my mom. I was too busy trying to not repeat things that I didn't focus on the things that we did have in common.
Yeah. Man, I'm discovering that with my children, you know, like the way that my mom reacted to certain things, certain ways, is just like not having very much patience. It's like one of the things that I really lost after having children was my patience, you know, and, you know, especially because you're an only child and things are supposed to happen a certain way. And it's just like, you know, children, they take your AirPods and you're just like,
he's still mad about the AirPods,
fuck?
ladies and gentlemen. He's very upset.
Yo, they take your keys and then you can't find your keys or your phone or like, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, and my mom had like a rage that she would have. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do is like, let go of that and like understand that, you know, we're all learning.
I don't know, man. It's just, we have to keep, you know, we have to cherish those moments because time flies, dude.
For sure, man. And you're not guaranteed. Like I told you, my friend fell asleep.
How old was he?
He was a year older than I was. Yeah. And so when you
can't plan for that.
When you figure that out, you're just like, yo, you got to live your life to the fullest. And that was a major decision on some of the decisions that I've made, where I was just like, yo, I'm going to live my life to the fullest. I'm going to take the risk that I've always been like, I don't know. I'm just going to stay safe and like do this because this is what's doing this and this is what's doing that. Like, explore.
That's what I feel like. That's the key advice. You know, if I had to give anybody any advice on comedy, I would say that, but it applies to everything in life. Which is like, just do it. Yeah. Just fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know, and stop waiting for the perfect moment, because there is no perfect moment. There might not be a moment other than this moment. Yeah. You know, we're always stuck, I think, as human beings, like, well, look, we're always like either in the past or in the future. Yeah. But then you don't realize that moment where you're thinking about the past or the future, you're burning up the present, and that moment will soon be the past. Yeah. So if you keep looking at either, you're never going to cultivate or manifest what you're trying to do, because you're not taking advantage of the present. Yeah. Because you're either thinking about the future, burning up that moment,
Like not appreciating, not
and
being
then
present.
it'll be a past. And now you're gonna look at the past and be like, damn, I just ruined that moment, and you're doing it again in that moment.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking about how you can change it now, you're thinking about how you squandered that chance.
Yeah.
So we're either always in the freaking future or always in the past, and we don't realize we're letting all these little micro moments that turn into our whole life just slide right by.
Yeah, and this leads me into the question that I was going to ask you. What are those moments where you stood at the fork of life, where you had to pivot and you had to make hard decisions?
Man, I think there's been many, but I gotta be real and I feel like don't we go through that almost every day in a way? If you really think of it, it might not be on a big, huge scale, but every little thing we do will have some sort of reaction. Or
well, let's talk about comedy. Like I know that comedy, just even living the lifestyle of a comic, right? Like, what was that like? Where you were just like, I'm gonna totally dedicate myself and really focus on being a comic. I'm
still doing it. It's an active muscle that it's like something you gotta work at every day. You know what I mean? Because I still have my day job.
Yeah. What's that like?
It sucks ass. No, I mean I'm blessed. I mean I'm glad that we have that backup, that safety.
Yeah.
But again, we get so caught in being safe.
Yeah.
That when do we let go? Unfortunately, right now I can't do the thing of just being like, you know what I just said, just do it, because that's the story for a lot of us, right? We want to just do it, but there's certain situations we find ourselves in where we can't. Right now, my mom lives with me. There's bills I got to do. There's things I got to prep for, and just kind of keep things kosher or keep things in order.
Yeah.
While I'm doing that and maintaining, I'm still trying to do my comedy because that's my passion. That's what I feel like I was put on this earth to do.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do
you balance that?
Exactly. That's what I mean by it's like an active thing. It's not something I've figured out by any means. And I'm curious to ask people who look like have it all together if they've figured it out. And I wonder if they would answer it the way I'm answering. Like, I'm still doing it every day.
Yeah.
But it's so easy for us to look at others from our vantage point and look at others in a different spot and be like, oh, damn, they're way over there.
Yeah.
That we forget that person, wherever they're standing, are probably looking at someone else going, damn, look, they're way over there.
Yeah.
We're all feeling it.
Yeah, they say that the thief of joy is comparison.
Huh. Yeah. See what I mean? Like you just gotta do what you gotta do, So like, I don't know, right now I'm still doing what I have to do with the day job. But my intentions are to, when I financially can have the freedom to be like, fuck it, I'm done with this.
And what was it like to like jump in and like do your first stand up? Because I mean, I've tried to put 5 minutes together, to be honest, man, and that shit is intense, yo. Like,
it's weird.
Yeah,
it was weird for me.
Like I can get up and do like performances, but they're like, you kind of shelter yourself because it's not, you're interacting with the crowd, but only on your own terms. You're like, say hey or say hi, and like you could shut them off if you want to.
Right.
When you're doing comedy, they're like all up in your face, and they're interacting with you, and they could tell you that they're not feeling what's going on.
Oh, and they do.
Yeah, like what was it like to go to
that first set I did? Man, it was trippy because I actually started, so I already covered that part earlier and talking about how, I came from like the B-boy, the B-girl ciphers, and like thankfully, because of my older brothers, I grew up immersed in the hip hop culture. Like I would steal their shit. I would listen to their mixtapes. I would snatch their CDs.
That's what they get for messing with your toys.
Oh, and they hated it, man. They hated it. Stop touching my tapes. Where's my NWA? Like I would take my brother Will's stuff or listen to my brother Caesar's stuff. They were both on that. And then Will, he went to Lane. And so he was hanging out with all the little hip hop heads and breakdancing and the graph heads. And so, of course, when he would come over with his friends, I'd be like trying to hang out with them. And I got into breaking. And when I got to high school, I had my own, I was finally developed my own circle. I was old enough to have my own little cipher of friends. And I same thing. I was in that little category of, oh, she's a hip hopper, or she's one of the little hip hop heads, and started breakdancing, started rhyming, going to, DJ scribble jams, and like just being immersed in that hip hop world. And then from there, I guess that's what got me comfortable on the mics and started doing a lot of, that's when I got involved in like the vagina monologues, and that's when my mind was opened up to the whole social justice movement, the vagina monologues. And I was like, oh my God, we gotta end violence against women and girls. Like this is dope. I didn't know, not the violence obviously, but the movement was dope. And I was like, I didn't know this was out there. So started doing all of that and being, a part of these organizations and doing things in the communities. From there though, my love for like the arts and performing, like I don't know, dude. It's like I grew up watching comedy, and I knew that I wanted to be, in my mind, I didn't really know that stand-up was a thing. I grew up watching stuff like In Living Color, Bienvenidos, El Chavo del Ocho, Cantinflas. That's the stuff I grew up watching. So I was like, I want to be a funny actress. That's what I think. What I was trying to,
like,
I didn't know. I guess I didn't really know the concept of stand-up. I wasn't really watching stand-up that young, but I was watching a lot of sketch.
Well, nobody would, because they were like vulgar and like it's adult. You know what I'm saying?
I saw a lot of like even stuff like the Bienvenidos when I was older, and I watched it. I was like, I can't believe I was watching that as a kid. A lot of it was like tongue in cheek. A lot of it was like innuendos. Yeah. Well, maybe that's why I watched it, because I didn't understand. Half of it was like all this double, double meaning and stuff like that. Yeah. But when I got a little bit older, like grammar school, like late grammar school, I discovered Comic View on BET. Yeah. That's the first time I started watching. And Def Comedy Jam. Oh, yeah. That's when I started watching stand-up. But I still didn't really understand it as a concept. I was just like, oh, these people are telling jokes. I didn't know stand-up. I don't know how to explain it, I guess. I just didn't really know stand-up was stand-up. I just thought these people were going on stage and they were funny and they were telling jokes. I didn't know it was a thing, I guess, the way I knew being an actress was. Or being a movie star.
Well, it's more like you had to kind of find stand-up. Like being an actress, that's fed to you all the time.
Exactly. And I guess maybe that's why. So when I discovered like Def Comedy Jam and I was like, this is dope. These people are hilarious. But I didn't know it was something that I could do. Yeah. I just knew that was dope. Yeah. And then fast forward through high school, and then fast forward post high school when I got involved in activism and social justice stuff. Then I started getting on the mics and doing, hosting events and stuff like that. Okay. And then I was like, that's when I landed with the vagina monologues at UIC. Didn't even go to that college. Yeah.
UIC did some really dope stuff that like the neighborhood was part of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean they had a poetry reading that I used to go to all the time, man. It was like.
And did you go to UIC?
No, I didn't go to UIC.
But see, like that was so. I thought that was so dope. When I was told about the vagina monologues and I was explained what the movement was and what it's who Eve Hensler is and all that, I was like, man, this is dope. This is what I want to do. I want to bring awareness and I want to like bring peace to the world, and to just bring love. Like let's raise awareness on this topic. I was like, hell yeah, this is dope, and it mixes it with theater. I'm like, oh man, this is pretty cool. I'll be able to get on stage and repeat some of these women's very important stories, but also try to, bring their story to life on stage. So it was like the first time that I mixed the social justice that I was involved in and interested in mixed with the arts for me. And I was like, oh, this is dope. And so then I wanted to keep going into the artsy stuff. Like, okay, well, what else now? Like I loved being on stage. This was great. What do I do? I know I'm funny. I've always wanted to be some sort of an actress. By this time I knew what stand-up comedy was, but I didn't think that I could. The same thing you said. I was like, yeah, I see that they're being funny. And I'm funny with friends, but how do I do it in a monologue-y style? Like I bounce off people. So I thought, oh, you know what? Improv, yeah. That shit did not click with me the way I thought it would. It can, and it does. if I rock with like, you know, if I got a good chemistry and as I do sketch, if I have good chemistry with my peeps, like it's fun. But in that moment, maybe I was too young and I didn't really know what the fuck I was doing or what.
Yeah, you got to be turned on. I mean, they do. I used to use those in the classroom a lot. A lot of the activities that the improv.
Oh, like the warm up games and stuff.
Yeah, the warm up. Like you have to warm up, and even just having to warm up, like is. Like you have to be in a certain place to be in the zone with somebody.
Yeah, and I think it's important who you're in the zone with too. And there was like, I felt completely out of place.
Yeah.
I had a dope instructor, and the class was fun. The students were cool. My classmates were cool. It was at Second City. It was run nicely. This was a long damn time ago, but it just didn't click. I didn't feel any. Like, I felt like we were all there together, but I felt like everybody was there on their own shit.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, we're playing together, but we're not really together. It's like we're pretending to be together, but I don't know. I just felt a disconnect.
Yeah.
I guess the best way to put it is I felt a disconnect, and I was like, man, this improv thing ain't really clicking like I thought. Yeah. And then I went back to theater, and I did, that's when I met Goya Paz and Tania Saracho, and they had founded at that point Teatro Luna. That's when I hooked up with Teatro Luna and auditioned and was able to be a part of a dope ass project they had put together. It was kind of collaboratively written, but it was all based off of interviews. Did you guys go to that a long time ago?
Probably.
It was called Machos. It was done in drag. It was a bunch of us girls, and like we had to take we took classes on how to walk like a dude, and like,
oh, for real?
Yeah, they did. They gave me cornrows, and I had like the whole like fake facial. Like, it was pretty dope. It was called Machos, and we basically came out and we retold in different scenes and sketches these different men's stories. Yeah. Some were fucked up, some were trippy, some were funny. Yeah. But that was dope. And then again, I was like, oh man, this was badass. I loved it. Yeah. Love being on stage.
So the rush, you like the rush?
Yeah, I love the rush, and I love the connection you make with people. Yeah. Because up until that point, the play was going to be, you know, like it was going to be about, you know, the stereotype that Latinas are locas. Mm. But during the interview process, when the men were being interviewed, they started telling some stories and actually started pretty much like, it was like therapy for them. A lot of them were like, I've never talked about this, and they were dropping some shit. Yeah. And at that point, Tanya and Goya, I think, were like, oh, I think this is going to turn into something way better than what we need to talk. We need to tell the guys' story about what the pressure is that they feel to be a man. Yeah. And so that was Machos, and it was such a dope production. It was such a dope play. A lot of guys came up to us afterwards, some in tears, some laughing. Yeah. Like, yo, that was like, I resonated with this. I had that problem with my ex, or this happened with me in my life, or a lot of shit that we don't really hear, because guys, you know, you guys gotta be put together all the time, you know. So from there, I was like, man, this is dope. Theater is the shit. I want to do more of it. Yeah. And then again, I was like, now what? I kept doing these things, and then I'd be like, now what? Like I would do it, and then it'd be over, and then I'd be like, yeah, okay. And so after Machos, again, I was like, well, now what? And then I did, you know, kept doing what I know how to do, is just stay on mics, you know, go to events, host, you know, things, and then my friend sent me a flyer for a stand-up comedy workshop. Okay. By Mikey O. Okay. And so I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to try this. Yeah. And part of the class was put your first 5 minutes together, which I thought mine were corny as hell, because they were. But I didn't know the first thing about setting, you know, so that's what the comedy workshop was, is teaching you the basics, the setup, this, the that.
But we're all toys when we start. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're all like, you don't start off being a superstar. No, and if anything too, going back to that, like when I was giving like my little advice, telling people, just do it. No failure is really a failure. Yeah. I think no movement
is more of a failure than trying something and failing, because you have to constantly fail in order to prevail.
Yeah.
Like you have to fuck up in order to learn and grow from that and be like, oh, okay, I know how to do this shit better now. Now I'm not gonna like. So to me, even failing is a gain.
Yeah.
That's a step in the right direction. But if you don't move at all, you're gonna definitely fail just staying there.
Yeah, for sure.
Or not necessarily fail, but you definitely won't make it to the next.
Yeah, you're gonna live your life scared.
Right.
And you're just not gonna do it.
In the safety zone, in the comfort zone. So yeah, put together the first 5 minutes, and then the graduation was a show.
Okay.
At Joe's, in that back room where it seats like 300 and 400 people.
Uh-huh.
That was my first freaking performance, was at a full house at Joe's in the back.
Okay.
And after that, I was like, oh, this is gold. Like, I loved it.
Yeah.
So between stand-up and theater, man, like, that's my house right there.
And then how did you get support from Mikey O?
How didn't I get support from Mikey O? That dude is like willing and ready to help whoever's hungry in any aspect, not just comedy, man. That guy's like he's just a beautiful individual that's like ready to connect folks, ready to be like, hey, you need a photographer, you need this, you need that. You so-and-so, he's a connector.
Yeah.
I appreciate the hell out of him. Big shout out. Much love to Mikey O. He gives a lot of opportunities to a lot of folks, and just run with it.
Yeah, I've seen him work with Isael.
Oh yeah.
And it is just like I saw the development that he did with him.
Yeah, so the poet.
Yeah, poet.
Yeah, for sure. That's my homie, man. Who also does sketch. He's been in some of, we've done shows together too.
Yeah.
That dude's talented as hell. Yeah, Mikey will spend his time with whoever he sees has a Ghana, has an interest,
Okay.
Yeah, that dude has definitely done a lot for folks. And I, here I am. I made 14 years this last December. 14 years doing stand-up. So talk about time flying. I'm like, what the hell?
What have you learned in those 14 years?
Oh, man.
And what have they been like? The ups and downs of it. Especially we were talking about the pandemic. The pandemic had to have been like a really, really...
The pandemic was a bitch. No, I'm just kidding. I shouldn't cuss as much on your podcast. Apologies. But the pandemic was definitely, it wanted to be a showstopper, man, but it couldn't. It definitely threw us all for a loop.
Yeah.
It's comedians, dude. Like, we need the stage, we need the people, we need the energy. But I think for me, I'm blessed to say, other than to find my footing, I didn't lose much traction with regards to me still being able to keep my tools sharp, because I started doing Zoom shows.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck it. I got an offer to do a show online, and I was like, sure. And then after I took it, I was like, oh, how is this going to work? I've never performed to a laptop.
Yeah.
And I had a blast. I know I have a lot of friends who hated these Zoom shows.
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously prefer performing
Do you hear them laughing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I loved it. And because I brought my same energy that I bring on stage, I brought that shit to my living room.
Yeah.
I was all up in the little cubes. I was flipping through the pages on Zoom and be like, hey, I see you. Hey, Laura, you're not even paying attention, Laura. What are you doing back? Like, I was picking on, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're all like turning their cameras off and shit. Like,
hey, Joe, that sounds like a teacher. Like,
I was having a blast on them Zoom shows. I was like, look at this dude, like, fucking, and especially if they were corporate gigs. I had so much fun doing the corporate gigs, like messing with the people in the cubes, and I think they loved it, especially because they too were experiencing the pandemic.
Yeah.
So they felt like they were an audience member in a live show, because even though they weren't in physical form, they were, and I still gave them that same feeling. Like, if you're sitting in the third row, I'm like, hey, what's up? I see you with your little red hoodie. Okay. Like, I was calling people by their first names, and like,
and you imagine like they're like the boss or the supervisors of people getting,
dude, they all got called out, and I was having fun with that, and I think they liked it too. So I try not to skip a beat, but there's nothing like performing live. And you know that, man. There's nothing like performing in front of a live audience.
Yeah, you get like a different type of high on it. Like you of different vibration, I should say, where
Most
you're just
definitely.
like, you're just like, damn, everything's in tune, everything's going like it's supposed to go.
Yeah,
like,
most of the time, right?
yeah. And what happens when it doesn't?
Nothing. Like, you hope that people fucking forget.
Yeah.
you hope that they don't remember that. Nothing, man. I mean, for me, I'm an overthinker as it is.
Yeah.
So I can't really say nothing and mean it. Like, I say nothing as far as like it doesn't affect the career. You know what I mean? Like, unless you're bombing all the time, then maybe don't be a comedian. But bombing, just like everything else I was talking about, right? You need to bomb in order to. I mean, I guess you don't need to. If you could avoid the bombing, that would be great. But if you do bomb, that's part of the progress. You know, you gotta. That's how you learn. You learn your audiences. You learn your material. You learn the shit.
And adversity.
Yeah. Like,
you learn how to get yourself back up.
I think the biggest thing that I've learned and that I've had to put into practice, which is very hard to do, and you spoke about it earlier, Deepak, man, let that ego go. You know, and he says, ego, another word for edging God out. You know, when you want to have that ego, you just got to be like, no, that's not. And he says, you know, to basically like he says what I was saying, like just lean into the fear, like think of the very thing that you fear and lean into it, because that's really what holds us back is our ego. We're afraid
to be judged
because people be like, no, it's fear. But fear of what? Fear of embarrassing yourself, fear of what people are going to say, fear that people are going to talk shit, fear that you look like a dork, fear that you sound like a dork, fear that your hair was fucked up, fear that it's all about ego.
Yeah.
But once you let that go, just do it. And then, you know, my dad used to say all the time, ¿Y qué tiene? Like, if I would say that I was worried about something, or what if this, or what if I don't get the job at Boston Market, or whatever dumb shit I was applying to at that time in my life, or what if I don't this, and what if, what if the, thing doesn't work out?
Yeah.
And my dad would always go, and so what? ¿Y qué? And I'm like, what do you mean? ¿Perdiste un dedo? Did you lose a finger? No. ¿Te moriste? Did you die? No. Entonces, ¿para qué te preocupas? What are you worried for?
Yeah.
You know, and I try to keep that in mind. Like, we get so stuck in like, oh, this shit is scary. And what if I bomb? And what if I this? And what if I that? And what, like.
Yeah.
But then what?
No, yeah. I mean, one of the biggest liberations that I've had in my life is not caring what people think. And I mean, there's still a little of that. But as far as like the development in the program, it's just like you can't fix, maintain, and what is it called? You can't fix, and well, you can't fix your ass and your face at the same time. It's one of them, right? So it's like you're either gonna fix one or the other. You're either gonna keep your ego or you're gonna fix yourself. And in fixing yourself, you can't be worried about what other people think about you. You just gotta fix it. And so, I grew up with a mom where she was just like, you gotta have your shoes nice. You have to like
present yourself well.
Yeah, like you have to comb your hair. Like you have to do this. And so I still carry some of that. The growing out my hair is one of those things that's just like, it's uncontrollable. And I'm learning to just let it be, and so it's part of my growing process where it's just like, I'm just accepting it. And then the other thing is that I have friends that are bald, and I was complaining about combing my hair one day, and one of my guys was like, yo, I wish I had your problems. And I was just like, damn.
Yeah, dude, I think there's
And so you had to do that as a comic, is just let that shit go and let it ride.
And I still have to do it, because if you think that I don't come off of stage and straight rip my shit apart to myself in my head and be like, I should have said that. Why didn't I? Oh, I could have. You know how we are.
That inner dialogue.
Yeah, we're our worst critics, man. And then I'm somewhat of a perfectionist. I want shit to be like.
Oh, you put your toys perfect.
But another thing that's interesting with the whole going back to the whole just do it thing is part of that perfectionism, or part of it is also tied to that fear of failure. It's like you don't want to put it out if it ain't completely ready. So it's part of fearing of failure, but it's also a big part of like, I want to do things and I want them done right.
Yeah.
So like, but
there's that
for
fine line.
procrastinators, yeah, for folks who have other things going on, it might prevent you from doing anything at all, because we're constantly waiting for the right moment or for this to be perfect, for it to be released. Meanwhile, everybody else and their mom is releasing shit half-ass, and theirs is just succeeding because it's out there, and yours ain't, because you're waiting for yours to be picture perfect to release.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're dominating the market with half-ass shit because they just said fuck it and they put it out.
Yeah.
Again, it's like, where do I find the balance? I don't want to half-ass my stuff and put up poor quality clips or, you know, bits that aren't fully flushed. But also, and then what? So let's say I do and people don't like it. I mean, man, the way social media is, you're here right now, you're not in 2 seconds. So
yeah.
And I need to remember that goes for both when you're doing good and bad. You know, you might do great right now, and then tomorrow somebody else does a little bit better, and they forgot about you. It's social media game, like, you know, it's quick moving. If I bomb, oh well. I mean, hopefully by tomorrow somebody else does something worse, and that shit will be on the forefront. So like, we need to think of it in both ways too. You know what I mean?
No, I feel you, man. Speaking of bombing, man, has that happened to you?
Hell yeah, that's happened to me, and I'm just like, oh, what the? Yeah, that happens. You just got to keep rolling with it. Because there's nothing, you know, and I think that's, for me, what's interesting that you said is that you kept editing it is comics will tell you, well, not all comics, right? You get different advice from different people depending on who you're talking to, but many comics have told me, dude, when you got your set in your mind, don't go switching it up just because you see the audience.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you might go into a joint and you're like, okay, I got this set in mind. I think I'm going to rock these jokes. And then you go in there and you're like, they ain't going to know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm going to switch this up. Sometimes you do have to, you got to know your audience.
Yeah, you got to tailor it to them.
Yeah, you can't completely not. But if you overdo it, and that's probably what happens, there's been times where I've overthought. Yeah. And I thought
trying to win it, man.
I psyched myself out. Yeah, and then you psyched yourself out. You know, as if you would have gone the original route, it probably would have been fine.
Yeah.
And nobody would have known the difference, and you would have, but you wanted to make changes. And same with me, man. Same with comics. We might show up to a room and have a set in our mind. Sometimes for me, it's the comics that get in my head and not the audience. Sometimes I'll go into a room and I'm more concerned that the comics I've performed with have heard my shit. And it makes me want to change my set, and then I don't do so great. And I'm like, why am I performing for the comedians? They're doing the same fucking set too. Yeah. It's not like nobody in their right mind would expect the comic to come up and every time they come on stage, they're going to do a brand new set, and it's going to be tight and worked out and flushed. And that's how you get to a tight set. Yeah, for sure. You got to rock it over and over, and you got to smoothing. You got to work out the kinks, and you might change it. You might delete it. You might rearrange it. You might add. You might deduct. Yeah. By the time you know it, a year or whatever time, it's different timing for different people. Once you find that groove of that one joke, you're like, oh, remember how short it was and how choppy, and now it grew to a whole bit. One joke can turn into a whole set. Yeah. But not if you do it once and throw it away and then go to the next show and do a brand new set. Yeah. You know? And
it's quality and quantity, right? Like you could potentially, like you were talking about those people who release half-ass stuff and it's just like they could have worked it out. But then there's the other side where it's like you're too much of a perfectionist and not really allowing yourself to release.
Man, yeah. So it's tough because on any way you look at it, you can go too far to one extreme and it can be a detriment to your process.
Well, talking about process, like what's your process like? Like how do you get yourself in the zone to be able to write?
You know, I didn't know that I had one. I didn't think about any of this stuff, doing stand-up and how and the science and I just did it. Yeah. Like it just felt like natural. But do you have a ritual?
Like, do you do it at night? Do you do it in the day?
No, there is no, if I could be completely honest, man, there is no specific way or thing that I do to write. What I have noticed is that if I tell myself that I got to sit down and write, that's probably that's not going to work. Okay. That does not work for me personally. I don't know about other comedians. Yeah. I can sit there and be like, all right, you're going to write. You had this idea. The only way that I can not keep up with my hand is if it's done on the spot.
Okay.
That's how my comedy, like my shit comes from real life. I don't sit down and go, think of a funny scenario. Wouldn't it be funny if I'm gonna write that? I can't.
So
do
you
that.
constantly on your phone, like
Yeah,
typing in your phone?
or I'll excuse myself. I'm hanging out with friends. That's when I'm in my element. That's when my comedy comes to me because
Okay.
my shit is all real stuff. So I noticed during the pandemic, I hit a little bit of a dry writing spell.
Yeah.
And I realized why I hadn't been going out. If I don't
and
interact,
experiencing things.
yeah, if I don't interact with people, if I don't have these conversations, if I don't leave the house, I might have some stuff to write about based on that, not leaving the house and based on shit in my house. But there's not much action going on there. I could read news. There's a lot of comics who are like, read the paper. You can come up with topical stuff. You can come up with, and there's nothing wrong with that. For me, I want to feel a personal connection with my comedy.
And your show was definitely very personal.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it was all my life,
Yeah.
you know. And you know what I liked about that too is that allowed me to get back to my theater.
Yeah.
To my theater life. Like I was able to mix my comedy with theater, and people knew since they were going to see a show, a play, I would think that they would assume like, okay, it might not be straight comedy from beginning to end, which it wasn't. It was a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But it was mostly funny. But I was allowed to take more pauses and more beats and go to places where I don't think I can't do that when I'm doing stand up.
Yeah, because you got to be like, boom,
yeah,
boom,
stand up
boom,
is
boom.
stand up, right? I'm not gonna sit there and talk about some. I can, because I started talking about my dad's passing in my stand up recently.
Yeah.
But it's not done in a theatrical way.
Yeah.
It's stand up, pure, joke.
And what's that like, man? Like, I don't want to pass that up because that's like, how do you, the tragedy or like that emotionalness that you got, how do you incorporate that into your comedy? Like, how have you?
It's interesting because I was like, how do I not?
Well,
To me, it was almost like inevitable. And again, it wasn't something I thought. None of these things is something that I sit down and go, you know what would be dope? It just kind of happened. Like, when my dad passed, that's where my head was at.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about the stuff that was happening in front of me,
Yeah.
And he passed in my apartment because, we already knew it was towards the end. And so we were like prepping for it.
Yeah.
And so he was in my place in his bedroom. And so a lot of the shit that was happening in that moment, I was noticing, but I was too busy feeling that I didn't, it's almost like the
You're living
subconscious.
outside of yourself.
Yeah, it was almost like the subconscious part of me was like, mental note, that shit was funny. We'll talk about that when it's appropriate. It was
I got
almost
you.
like, that's funny. And I was like, oh, fuck, okay. And it was just kind of like in the background. And like, I'll tell you one quick story. And this is
I got one too.
This is one of the ones I haven't talked about it too much in stand-up. It's just been maybe about a 5-7 minute of my dad, and then I move on to other stuff because I'm getting there.
Yeah.
But for me, after my dad passed and I was, sitting with all these thoughts, that's when I was like, I want to talk about it. And again, with my family, we're very close. We're so there for each other.
Yeah.
But when we were there for each other, we weren't like, how do you feel?
Yeah.
We were just there for each other.
Yeah.
Like my brothers would come over and be like, what's up, sister? And we would talk normal stuff.
Yeah.
But
like
there
act
was,
normal.
Yeah. But there wasn't like, other than the small, quick moments of like, I love you, man. I miss that too. I love you too. And then that's it. It wasn't like, so how are you? It wasn't like deep like that. So I had all this stuff that I was like, I want to talk about stuff. I want to talk about the watching it happen. I want to talk about all this shit. And I want to talk about it to people because I feel that no one talks about it.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about it in the way we're used to talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But these things, like the little nuances, like this is the first time we dealt with a hospice, company or hospital or organization, whatever. The hospice folks.
Look after your parents.
They came through and they started dropping off equipment, like the hospital bed and shit. We weren't used to none of that stuff. So we were just like, oh, they're dropping off a bed. Oh, okay. And then the fucking bed. And then these guys are just the delivery guys. They come and they're all half-assed. They throw the shit to the side and they're like, all right, we're gone. And they're just as quick as they dropped it off, they're gone.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're trying to set my dad's bed up in the bedroom and whatever. And my brother's like, where are the rails? The guardrails. And we're like, I don't know. He's like, the guy didn't bring guardrails. We're like, what the hell? So we're like calling the bag and like we don't know what's covered, what we have to pay for. Like we were just kind of like winging this whole hospice process. Like we didn't really know much. And you know, my parents had just come back from Mexico because of my dad's illness. We knew what it was, so we were like, you guys gotta come home
and get better,
be here with us
treatment.
here. Yeah. And so, you know, they still had their maletas. You know, Latinos, when we come out, your maletas will sit there forever and shit. They become part of the furniture.
Okay.
And so my dad still had a bunch of maletas and everything, still packed. All the luggage and stuff was like still off to the side, and they were kind of like half unpacked and half in the luggage.
Yeah.
And so I walked in the bedroom and I see my brother. I see all these little maletas and these little luggage bags surrounding my dad on the bed. Like on both sides of the bed, it's like luggage. And I was like, I come out of the bedroom and I'm like, why is there fucking maletas on dad's bed? Like, why are there luggage? And then we started laughing. And I'm like, is that so he doesn't run? Well, they got to bring the railings, you know? So like,
they put the luggage as railings?
We put like, my brothers and I like put like luggage so my dad wouldn't roll off of either side. And like, that to me was like, that's funny. It's not funny right now. Yeah. But I was like, really? I'm like, and I told my brother, I was like, how Mexican are we? And he's like, what? And I'm like, we're putting maletas on dad's bed. So I'm like, what's, and I even told him, I'm like, what's next? I'm like, you're going to put the fucking, the olla de tamales, you know, like you're going to put the tamale pan and the pot and like all these objects to keep him from coming off the bed. And so stuff like that I was like, that's it. There's funny in tragedy. There's funny in everything.
Yeah.
And one thing that I learned a long time ago, and it was doing Mikey's workshops and stuff. Yeah. It was find the funny. Mm-hmm. There's funny in everything if you look for it. And so obviously in that moment I wasn't trying to find any funny. I was just like wanting to be strong and get through this with my family, right? But you need that, man. It's okay. It's not like you're laughing at the situation, but you have to find some sort of something, because if you don't have anything positive to hold on to, man, you might not be able to get through that experience.
Yeah, for sure, man. And you said something really important, is be strong. I never realized, like, people are like, yo, be strong. Yo, until I had to deal with that type of stuff, like breaking down after my mom got diagnosed with cancer outside of a room. And my uncle was looking me in my eyes and be like, yo, go to the bathroom, wash your fucking face, get your shit together, and be strong for your mom, because she doesn't need to see you like this.
Right.
And I was just like, yo, it threw me into a whole nother zone. Which is
a lot to ask for, too, of any human, because, like, fuck, we're allowed to be human, too, and break down. But in that moment, you don't want to put that extra burden on the loved one, who, you know, on your loved one who's suffering. So it isn't. I hope you didn't take it like a be strong forever. No. You know, but in that moment,
I mean, I'm still dealing with it. You know,
like of course that doesn't go away.
Those memories. But funny story. All right. So, just like your father's living with you in your apartment, my mom got cancer. She got diagnosed. So I lived by UIC in the University Village. So I was just like, you know what, like, Mom, come stay with me. And so it was the moment when my relationship with my mom became like we were friends.
That's cool.
Because it was just like, I didn't ask her for money after I left. I was like on my own. She was like, you're going to fucking ask for money or whatever, right? I never did. And so one day I come home from work and she's on the couch and she has like a blanket and she like covers her head up with the blanket, or with the sabana, not the sabana,
the tiger blanket, la cobija.
She covers her head up, and so you can't see her hair, right? So I'm like, all right, this is kind of weird, right? Like, all right, whatever, right? So I started like washing the dishes or whatever, and then I go into the washroom and I see her hair all over the place, and the scissors, like regular scissors that I had there, where she was trying to chop her hair off because she cut hair, so she knows how to cut her hair, I guess, right? So she was trying to cut her hair, but she couldn't do it. So what she did was, I was like, I pretended like everything was cool. So I'm walking around and stuff, doing all of my normal stuff that I do after I get home from work, like put my stuff away and she's still has her head covered, and she's like, "What's up, hijo?" I'm like, "What's up, ma?" And I was like, "So what's going on?" She's like, "Oh, nothing." I was just like, okay. I was like, can I see your head? And she's like, "Nah." And I was like, "What?" So then she finally revealed her head, and she had patches of hair all over her head, Joe.
How does she do that?
Joe, because she could only get like certain. So she had like patches all over her head, and there was like a Final Cuts that opened like right there on Halsted, and I was just like, "Yo, we gotta go get your hair cut, man." So we go get her hair cut, and I had heard like, "Yo, there's this thing where it's like the family member will get their hair cut too and support, right?"
Mm-hmm.
So I fucking go to the lady, and then after she cuts her hair, I'm like, "I want to cut my hair too." She's like, "No, mijo, no te cortes el pelo. Don't cut your hair." And I'm just like, "No, mira qué bonito está. Like, look how beautiful it is." And I was like, "Nah, I'm going to get my hair cut." So they shaved my fucking head.
How old were you?
I was 25. I never realized I had a pointy ass head, dude.
That's
Yo,
hilarious.
They shaved all my hair
You're a
off.
fucking
yo.
conehead over
Man,
here.
I was coneheading my ass off, dude. I was just like, what?
Oh man, hey, when you looked in the mirror and you were like, "Mom, I see now. You have a point." Hey.
Hey, Joe, I was like, I had to sharpen it every morning. No, man. No, but it was wild, though. But it was like, I never realized that. Same thing with the long hair. I never grew my long hair out until now, and I never realized I had curly ass hair or wavy hair. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just like crazy, man, how you don't know yourself until certain situations. So that shit was funny.
Dude, I can't.
You know what I'm saying? But it's just like we
You have to
laughed.
yeah, see, like,
And
you
we
have
had a
to
good
have that
time.
fact, you know?
We were like, she was busting my balls too. She was like riding on me on the way home and shit.
Yeah.
Like, with your pointy ass head. I can't see with your
Pareces
pointy ass head.
lapicero, right? You look like a
You look like
pencil.
a fucking paleta.
Fucking A, man. That's hilarious. Hey, a big shout out to your mom and my pops up there, man.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Love.
They're beautiful, man.
Yes, yes.
And the whole thing is that I might go through my trials and tribulations and like hard things, hard life situations. It always how can I explain it? I always ask for help, and somehow I end up getting the message that I need to get. And I don't know if it's like you get a Jeep and then all of a sudden you start looking at Jeeps and you're like, damn, everybody has a Jeep.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or it's like you ask to see a Jeep and you see a Jeep. So like music is one of those things that where it's like, yo, I'm like really perplexed about a situation. I'm like, yo, I need this answer. And then all of a sudden, like, I'll listen to a song and it's just like the music, the song is directly answering a question that I had, and it's just like, yo. And it's like my mom was so strong that like things like you were talking about that you didn't understand, things that you didn't get at the time, things that she just said it's like they were seeds that went into your head, and like now that they're past, it's like you're finally getting it.
Yeah.
Like, damn, I was a fucking dumbass. You know what I'm saying? Like, she straight told me, don't drink.
Right.
My dumbass was like, I'm gonna fucking drink.
Right.
And see what happens.
Yeah. She's like, te dije, cabrón. Pero no, you always have a point. Hey.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, dude, I believe that. I'm a big believer in this isn't it. This is, for me anyway, I think this is a big trial. And I think part of why I am not No, the biggest reason why I am not going to give up with this comedy is not just for me because it's my passion. I love it and it's my passion, but I think everybody has a purpose to fulfill. And I think this one's mine. Not to do comedy necessarily, but to bring people together. And the talent and the tool and the weapon that I've been given to do that through is my humor and my love for people.
And that's a weapon, man, to disarm people.
And you know what's interesting? You use that term because that's what I use. A lot of folks have told me like, dude, why, like you're so, I'm very quick to give grace. I've always been that person. Fuck, like, and don't get me wrong. I'm the first one to be like, look at this dude, rude ass person. I can't believe she didn't say hi. I let her in. I let her get in my lane and she didn't wave hi. And then the person in the passenger seat will be like, they actually did. They went like this. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're welcome. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's not like I don't surface level talk shit, but that's just in the heat of the moment in those moments. But when I know what it is, when it's like it's not me reacting to like that moment, I think that I lost my train of thought.
You're talking about grace.
Yeah, there you go. I try to give people grace because we don't know where they're at.
Man.
We never know where somebody else is at. And my biggest thing is it's that old ass saying, man, like do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I know what it feels like to be embarrassed or humiliated or whatever experiences we had growing up in school or whatever, that I never want to be the person that makes somebody else feels like that. So whenever I have an opportunity to not be that person, that's who I choose to be.
Word.
So like, even if the person pissed me off or like a friend constantly reschedules or flakes out or doesn't call me back or doesn't text me back or somebody accidentally breaks something in my house, even if I really loved it, I'll react to it later or something because I know how it is to be that person that accidentally spilled some shit in someone's house and then you feel like an ass. The last thing you want is to be made to feel more like an ass and to feel bad for that accident you had, so it's like, be the understanding one, be the person that you would want to have around you when you need someone to understand you. Man. And I think love is the biggest weapon that I have because it allows me to enter a space, and I feel like a lot of us are walking around this world reacting to reactions. Right? A lot of us are walking around masking. We're putting on this thing, like this protective
social
armor.
Media is.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
It is.
My life is perfect. Look
at
me.
Right,
I'm on vacation.
And
aren't I special?
And that's what I wish. I wish I had a wand, dude. I wish I had a wand that could make everyone go, hey, everybody put their weapons down.
Yeah.
Or like, we all.
But I think you do.
I guess that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like if everyone did it, I'm saying, think of it like we're all wearing clothes. For example, I don't know, silly example, but right, we all wear clothes. We're covering. No estamos tapando. We're wearing our shit. We're protected. We're covered.
Yeah.
Whatever insecurities we may have about our bodies are protected. They're covered. Nobody sees it.
Mm-hmm.
What if somebody walked in and said, hey, I'm going to remove my shit. And then the next, like a nudist colony. And the next one's like, well, I'm going to remove my shit. Now everybody looks fucking different. Everyone's butt naked, but now nobody's different because everyone is different, which is what makes us the same. Yeah. That's what I wish people would get. Yeah. We're the same because we're all different. That's the one fucking thing we have in common is that we have nothing in common. Yeah. Like, does that make sense? You know what I mean?
No, yeah,
so it's
for
like,
sure.
So if everyone's walking around.
Because you're protecting this, and you're just like, yo.
But then if you didn't have anything to protect yourself from, because I didn't come in as a threat, then you can put your weapons down. Yeah. And then I can put my weapons down. So that I'm not reacting. So, you know what I'm saying? Let's say you're already anticipating a hostile, moment. Yeah. Because you heard something about this person. Oh, I heard this person has an attitude. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And now this person comes to where you're at and you're going to be like ready. You man, fuck that motherfucker. He has an attitude, then wait till he meets me.
Yeah.
Now this person comes in, and maybe this person his whole life has had an attitude because he really feels like crap.
Yeah.
Maybe that person is making up for their insecurities. Maybe they feel like absolute zero. And so the mask that they wear is that I'm the shit.
Yeah.
Because they actually don't feel like that.
Yeah.
Right? And so now they get to this place where you heard that this guy thinks he's the shit. So now you're ready to pop his bubble.
Yeah.
Because who walks around like that? Who does that? Who wants to walk around thinking they're the shit? I'm going to pop this guy's bubble. Then he comes in and meets the part of you that's reacting to what you think he is.
Yeah.
Right? He meets your reaction.
Yeah.
And he goes, see, this is why I'm an asshole. You see how this guy, I've dealt with this my whole life.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, people want to do me like this.
It.
So now he's like, now I'm going to be a bigger ass. And then you go, when that guy leaves, he was an asshole.
Yeah.
Who's going to give that asshole a chance to not be an asshole?
Yeah.
Because we're always going to be what people expect us to be. Like you hold, not in that way, right? Like we can prove people wrong, but what I mean is like if you have a kid and you keep telling that kid you're a fuck up.
Yeah.
What's going to make them think that they can strive for things that are not in that category?
Yeah.
They're going to be like, that's up beyond my reach. I don't belong in that category. I belong in this box.
Yeah.
So who feeds the confidence for that person to be like, I don't have to wear this mask that makes me look and act like an asshole. That's really not me. I was just doing it as a protection.
Yep. To get it across the river.
Yeah. I have to lead by example. And even if I might take some shots, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah.
To see if I give you a shot to show me that you're really not an asshole.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to hold you to that expectation because you're probably just going to prove me right. Because you're reacting to how I'm treating you.
Yeah.
And I'm treating you based off some narrative that I read somewhere or someone told me. So it's like, if I could walk in and be like, hey, I come in peace.
Yeah.
I'm not going to treat you like a dick or like an ass, and then they're like, oh, God, I don't have to act like one.
Yeah.
Cool, I'm safe with you. I'm safe with you. We're safe. We're safe together.
Yeah. Getting serenity or just like being comfortable in your own skin is like the biggest feat or one of the biggest feats that you could have in your life is, and to give yourself grace. Like you were talking about grace, like I had a hard time with that until just recently where it was just like you're your own worst critic and you got to just like ease up on yourself. You know what I'm saying? And then that in turn will help you ease up on other people too, because if you're criticizing yourself super hard, you're probably criticizing other people 10 times harder. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just like everybody makes mistakes. You gotta accept them mistakes and move on. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I mean, we're all dealing with our own shit and trying to make the best of it. Yeah. And that's why this year, dude, I'm gonna try to not overthink myself. There's so many things that I do get in my head about. You know, like I might be on stage and I might be going out and rocking the mics and doing all this and all that, but like I also go through this like, oh, I want to put this video up and I'll talk myself out of it. Mm-hmm. And then I see somebody else do it and it gets like 1 million views and I'm like, but mine would have been more thorough. Mm-hmm. I had a better idea, but I didn't do it. So I can't hate on people either because they're doing it without thinking twice. Yeah. And that's what I got to do. I just got to get more out there. You're like, well, I got to stop overthinking certain things because even at this point in my life, there's still things that I want to do that I'm like, maybe it's not that funny, but again, it's still shutting that ego. It's like, and so what? So what if it's not funny? So people will fucking forget about it tomorrow if it's not funny. And then what?
If you were, I mean, you kind of touched on it right now, but if you were talking to a kid that wanted to be a professional comic or like, have that work-life balance or anything like that associated with your story, like what would you tell them?
Don't wait. There is no perfect time. The time is now because you might not have that time. Mm-hmm. And I'm still trying to, like I said, to take my own damn advice fully. Yeah. I take it enough to get, to the places I've gotten to so far. Mm-hmm. Is it scary? It was scary to submit to the HBO to the stand up the Latino Film Festival, the stand up competition, it was scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, even when I was figuring out the clip, what I'm gonna do, I was like nervous just sitting there editing the clip. I had butterflies in my stomach, and I was like, what if I get accepted? What if I win? What if? And then I was like, oh, like that's scary. And I was like, I just had to say, screw it, submit it, and worry about it later.
Yeah,
that's what I tell myself when I want to freak out and talk myself out of something is I just say yes, and then I freak out. Yeah. Like after I committed, I'm like, what did I do?
You're running around the crib.
I don't know why. Yeah, but I did. Right. But I did it. Now I'm like, it's too late now. I got to do it.
Yeah.
So when we were going to the HBO thing, it's like every time I had a new thing to do with that HBO thing, I was like nervous all over again. Yeah. And then I'd be like, well, just do it. Lean into the fear.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen other than you're going to have another story and be like, you know what? At least I tried that shit.
Yeah.
Because if you really want to know what it would be like to fail, then stay where you're at. Man. Again, I'm not saying that that's literally some people can't in that moment do what they want to do. So don't think if you can't jump on it right now that you're failing. Everything has its perfect time. God has his time for you. God has it all set out. So always have faith in that. You're gotten no matter what. It's you're always where you're supposed to be. Like at the time you're supposed to be there. Nothing's coincidence, you know? So just do it, man. 'Cause
don't let yourself stop you. You know what I'm saying? Like other things can prolong things, but like your mind should make you jump.
Right.
Or like you should coach yourself to jump.
Just that you won't lose anything. If anything, you'll gain an experience and you'll be able to say, I tried it.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing would be like, what if?
What do you wish to leave with your comedy?
Love, man. Like I know it sounds like I don't know if it sounds cliche or corny, but that's legit. Love. Through laughter, through acceptance, through grace. Yeah. We all got stories, man. We all got stories.
Yeah.
And we all strive for the same shit. We all bleed red. We all want the same things in life. We all want peace. We all have loved ones. We all have goals. Yeah. We have aspirations. We have letdowns. We have good moments. We have bad moments. I just wish people would really get that through their head, that we're all brothers and sisters.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that hip hop was one of those things that kind of did that.
Yeah.
Like it got us all together to be like, yo, you're not that different. You know what I'm saying? You might eat different food, but we both want what's best for our family. Exactly.
We just want a nice, happy, joyful, peaceful, loving life, And like I think comedy can bring that, whether we talk about negative stuff, the positive stuff, and all the stuff in between. At the end of the day, at a comedy show, we're all laughing together.
Yeah.
And so, I think love, dude.
Yeah. And then what are you doing, any projects or anything that people can look forward to doing?
My next big show that I want folks to come out to if they can. You guys want to have a good time. I'm going to be at Joe's on Weed Street on May 5th for Cinco de Mayo. It's going to be a big ass fun show. I'm going to try to bring some goodies, meaning like, some good solid jokes, but majority I'm gonna rock some fresh material.
Okay.
Definitely want to talk more about my dad. I'm gonna be working on that material, so a lot more about that. And that's just gonna be big, man. I want it to be big because it's gonna be more about my pops. So it's gonna be more raw, more real, but still funny. Always funny and always in good taste and with a lot of love. So May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, bring your peeps. Joe's probably gonna be like 7 p.m. You can probably get tickets at GwenLaRoka.com. And then after that, another big, which I'm very, very happy to announce, Mi Casa es Tu Casa will be premiering at the Steppenwolf Theater.
Whoa.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. We made it. We made it, yo.
Right. Right. And then I clock in for work on Monday morning. Right. Yeah, it'll be at Steppenwolf Theater, Mi Casa es Tu Casa, July 5th, 6th, and 7th as part of the awesome Lookout series that they have every year. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Would love to have folks come check that out. That's just going to be a one weekend thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, July 5th, 6th, and 7th at the Steppenwolf Theater, Mi Casa es Tu Casa. Come on out, man.
And the show
That's
is incredible.
yeah. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I had a blast doing it. I can't wait to take it to Steppenwolf.
And then how can people reach out to you?
Oh man, I'm very reachable. So hit me up on Instagram. All my handles are pretty much the same at Gwen La Roka, which is Gwen La Roka. There's no C in it, my peoples. All right. So yeah, find me on IG at Gwen La Roka, YouTube Gwen La Roka, and my website gwenlaroka.com.
That's what's up, man.
Facebook
and then
too.
real quick, talking about the show, man. When I went to the show, there was a dude that kept on being like,
The guy in the front.
Yeah, I know what she's saying.
The guy in the front.
And then, like talking to his girl or whoever was next to him, like, yo, that's what and like having and I swore it was like your brother the whole time. And then we talked after the show, and you were like, I didn't know that, dude.
He said that was his first time seeing me.
Yo,
that dude had a blast. And you know what? I gotta keep it real, man. I as distracting as he was.
Yes.
He was distracting in the most pleasant and fun way for me. You know, like, and you've been to my performances, you know, I can break away from my shit and play with the audience a little bit and just be real, you know. It doesn't have to be like the stuffy put together show. Like, so he kept throwing me off my shit a little bit, but it was done in such a loving manner. I couldn't even hate on it. I was just like, I think I jokingly called him primo. I was like,
that's
primo,
why I thought
pipe down.
Yeah, I thought that's why he was related, because the whole time Kasha and I are like, this dude is like taking it over the top, man.
I'm sure he had some drinks before the show or something, because he was loving it. But that's what I love, dude. That energy of that relatability. You know, I want that, and that's the purpose of that show. You know, not just to honor my family and tell people my story and bring them into my world, but again, to do it in a way where you can see your family, even if you're Mexican, Guatemalan, if you're black, if you're from Poland, if you're Russian, Italian. I had so many different people come up to me that were not Latino and were like, I don't speak Spanish, but that was like watching my living room. And I was like, yes, that's what I want. I want for people to leave feeling like we're all family, because we fucking are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just love each other, damn it.
Yeah.
Got enough BS out there.
If you cut her off and you don't wave and say,
I'll curse you out, and then I'll be like, God bless them.
I hope they're all right.
Yeah. I'll be like, man, fucking asshole, but who knows? He might be having a hard day, bitch.
All right. Well, with that, thank you, Gwen, for making it.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you.
All right. And here we go. 500 and growing. We're out.
Peace.
500 and growing.
Podcast. Dedicated to the underdog, cause I see you working on your craft, getting strong, cause I see you ready to set it off and on, cause I see you correcting all that is wrong, cause I see you dedicated to your craft, read and study the math, making goals and taking a stand, original, so you trailblaze a path, in tune with your inner master plan.
Visit 500andgrowing.com for more creative content.
Thank you very much for listening to the 500 and Growing podcast. Remember that we have incredible guests that have already featured in episodes in the past. So please go back into the archives and listen to their inspirational stories. And then remember that we have incredible guests lined up for the future. So please follow on Instagram at 500 and Growing Podcast. Remember to follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of the major podcast platforms. You can also check out 500andgrowing.com for more creative content.
500 and growing.
Podcast.